Hello, welcome to the Flavor Lab, where I'm trying to do a speed run of how many food crimes against humanity I can commit before they send me to The Hague. Now, speaking of food crimes, today's another one of these kinds of videos, and I want to make something that I'm not quite sure is going to be terrible, which is a jalapeno oatmeal raisin cookie. So today, I'm just going to make an oatmeal raisin cookie and adding some jalapenos. I'm going to bake it and then see how it tastes, and I'll do a little taste test at the end. Now, in the meantime, you know, if you want to follow along, you could just omit the jalapenos. They're not really required for this recipe. One thing I have to say before I get started, I'm really enjoying this type of content for some reason. So if you want to give me your ideas for what I should make next, let me know in the comments down below. And it could be honestly a great way for you to punish me because I will have to subsequently eat those things. Anyways, all right, enough talking. Let's actually make some jalapeno oatmeal raisin cookies. So for this, we're gonna actually need 3 separate bowls. And in the first bowl, we're gonna start with our main ingredient, which is our jalapenos. So for this recipe, I'm just going to chop 2 jalapenos into a rough dice. I'm gonna try to aim for something that's about the size of a raisin. The goal here is not to make them disappear into the cookie. Once everything's chopped in, a rough dice like this, we can go ahead and put it into our first fun stuff bowl. Next, we're gonna need to add another ingredient, which is really important to this recipe, which are the oats. And for this recipe, I'm using old-fashioned oats and not quick oats. Then we're gonna need to add some raisins. And once we have all of our fun stuff together, it's time to give it a mix. And this is just gonna help ensure that when we make our cookies, the stuff is equally distributed in the cookie. All right. Next, we can move on to the dry ingredients. Now, for some reason, me pouring the flour in actually got lost to the ether for some reason, but you guys have seen me pour flour enough to know what that looks like. Next, we're gonna need to add some baking powder, and then after that, we're gonna need to add some salt, some powdered cinnamon, and an optional ingredient, but I think tastes pretty good, is some powdered cardamom. Then, once we have everything together, keep in mind that there is flour in this bowl, we're just gonna mix everything together and put that bowl of dry ingredients off to the side. Now lastly, we have our third bowl, which is gonna have some sugar in the form of granulated sugar, and then we're gonna add some brown sugar. And then lastly, we're gonna need some softened butter. Now we're gonna need to mix all this stuff together, so I'm gonna be using a KitchenAid, although you can definitely do this by hand or with a kind of hand electric mixer. Go ahead and set up your KitchenAid and attach the kind of cookie paddle thing. I have no idea what this thing's called. Once everything's set up, we can go ahead and toss in the softened butter into our sugar, and we're just gonna turn this on to stir at first, which is just gonna kind of mix everything together a little bit. And then we're just going to increase the speed steadily until the butter and sugar come together. It should become nice and fluffy. And essentially what we're doing is we're also incorporating air into this as well. And that's gonna help make sure that that cookie has a nice lift. Once our butter and sugar looks nice and fluffy, it's time to add in our egg. And when you add it, it's gonna look like you did something wrong, but that's okay. Just keep mixing it until the egg is incorporated. And also this is a good opportunity to put in some vanilla extract. And just mix this up until it looks kind of like this, nice and gooey and like nice cookie batter. All right, at this step now, we can actually add in our dry ingredients. And by dry ingredients, I mean the flour and spices. So go ahead and just pour this in, and you don't really want to mix this too much. So just kind of leave this on stir until it kind of all just comes together and is blended. So then once that's completely mixed in, it's time to add in our fun bits, which are the oats and jalapenos and raisins. So go ahead and just put this in and give this a stir as well until everything is incorporated. And then we're basically done with the cookie batter portion. I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't look super appetizing at this point. It almost to me looks like a tuna salad or something like that. All right, once we have our batter completely done, now it's time to actually put them out on a tray. And you could use spoons to be able to do this, but I was just feeling a little handsy, so I decided to actually put, a little blob of cookie on each one. And essentially we wanna make sure that they're spaced out equally, that they have enough room to actually grow and not actually interfere with each other. Once we have our cookies all put on our tray, it's time to actually put them into a preheated 350-degree oven. So I'm gonna put them into this little toaster oven, and we can watch these little puff blobs kind of melt out and turn into cookies. But after about 15 minutes, I just pulled my cookies out. And I always messed up cookies because I always thought you need to cook them until the tops are brown, but you want them to be at this kind of stage because they're gonna continue to cook as you pull them out. And they should be a little bit soft. And now it's time for a taste test. All right, so I have the cookies, and honestly, they don't look too bad. I mean, the green is a little bit off-putting in a cookie, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know. Time to taste one of these cookies. So I'm just gonna break this in half. I mean, it looks pretty good on the inside. Well, it's definitely weird. It reminds me of like cornbread that has jalapenos in it, which I've had sometimes. Also, there's versions of cornbread I've had that are kind of more on the sweeter side. It's kind of like that. Honestly, it just tastes like that. It's very good, and I would eat a lot more of it, but I don't know how much of that is just me having not eaten a cookie in a while. I'm trying to not eat as much sugar, and this is frickin' delicious, but that might be just because I haven't had a cookie in a while. If you wanted to make this, I definitely recommend the recipe I gave for the oatmeal raisin. And if you wanted to kind of do something a little bit interesting, especially I kind of feel like this might be a summer thing, add a few jalapenos. I mean, it's not terrible. I do think it has to be fresh jalapenos though. You couldn't add the canned pickled ones because I think that would be a little bit weird. Yeah, well that's it for this week. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this content and you have another suggestion for some food crimes, submit them down in the comments down below and I will be sure to look at them. I always get good ideas from you guys. And if you're not subscribed, you know, I'd appreciate it if you did. Maybe send this video to somebody else. I don't know. Anyways, that's it for this week. Bye.